Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this live session. This is the first time we've done one of these live sessions, so we're really happy to have you here today, and we're looking forward to sharing some of our stories with you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Joshua, I can hear myself repeat back at on your end. My name's Amy. I work for UNHCR in the fundraising team, and I have the privilege of working for UNHCR and traveling to visit our programs around the world, seeing the work that UNHCR is doing in different countries, and also hearing the stories of people that we're working with on the ground. And today I'm going to talk to you about a trip that I went on to South Sudan to do just that. And I'm joined by my colleagues, Joshua and Tixa, who were on the trip with me to South Sudan. We're going to talk about our journey through South Sudan from Maban through Bentu to Bor. And Joshua is a UNHCR colleague based in Nairobi. He's a videographer, and Tixa is a freelance photographer working for Reuters, who also works occasionally for UNHCR. And we were very lucky to have him on the trip with us in South Sudan. And all the images and all the video that you see today in this session was shot by Tixa and Joshua. So without further ado, we'll jump straight into our session today. So the first place that we went to in South Sudan is a place called Maban in northeastern South Sudan. And the first person that we met when we stepped off the plane in Maban is our colleague Alex, that you can see here on the screen. Alex is an expert in all things about flooding. He's South Sudanese and has worked for UNHCR for many years. And he's our environment officer in Maban. And he greeted us off the plane and then took us to see the work that he and the team are doing in Maban.
Maban, if I may just jump in here, Amy, the reason we picked Alex is because he kind of, if you can picture the quintessential example of UNHCR out in the field, just like boots on the ground, hands-on, working in the community. Alex was that premium example, and he as you can see in this picture, he's always every day dressed exactly like he is, knee deep in flood waters, trying to build bridges on the onset of rainy seasons, working in the tractors, trying to build dikes around the communities to protect them from oncoming floods. And he knew everything and everyone and anything that you would want to know about how rainy seasons affect and impact the communities in Maban. And we spent a couple of days with him just touring this Maban and all its camps and seeing the work that UNHCR is doing. And we were lucky enough to have the opportunity to cover a story that you're about to see on Alex and the work he does in Maban. Amy?
In a country that has suffered for over 10 years of war, flooding is another vulnerability added to people's communities. Flooding is a huge problem, and we are doing this work in order to protect the communities. We have so far constructed 5 kilometers of dike, and this dike will protect over 300,000 people. Our ambition is to construct 26 kilometers of a dike so that the population is safe.
So as you can see, Alex is a real character, and we had to get him on camera. As soon as we met him, we Joshua was very keen to get him on film, and Alex was a good sport and agreed to let us film him for a few days, taking us around to see the work that UNHCR is doing. And one of the things, so Maban has been hosting refugees now for over 10 years, but all the time, currently, they're still receiving new refugees from Sudan. And we saw lots of people arriving from Sudan whilst we were there. People arriving, fleeing war and violence in Sudan across the border. And one thing that really struck me, and after years and years of seeing people arriving over borders and meeting refugees, I think what really struck me that day, or those days that we met people in Maban, was that literally nobody that we met had anything with them at all. They came with absolutely nothing. So that was really striking to me, and really heartbreaking to see. But Tixa, you often photograph people who fled war in the region. And could you just talk a little bit about, tell us a little bit about how you go about photographing people, like the people we see in these photos, when they're kind of in these really difficult circumstances?
Yeah, so thank you, Amy. People arriving in Maban have been through a lot when they have lost their belongings back home, and and they faced like fear and trauma on their way to Maban. So in covering these stories, I had to focus on getting their consents, make sure 100% that they're willing to get photographed, and then they're happy to get their story told. So in telling their story, their safety and dignity comes first. So I was just working on focusing on that while photographing them.
Yeah, it can be very difficult in these situations when people are so vulnerable. So I think, yeah, building trust and working with our local staff is always really important. Your images, I think, really capture, they're really beautiful pictures of people who are arriving. This photo shows some of the items being distributed. So when people arrive, they go to a transit center, and then they are given essential items, because, like I say, they've arrived with nothing. So they're given blankets and a bucket and kitchen sets so they can cook, and plastic sheeting and lots of items that they need just really to survive, to be honest. And then they're taken to their new homes, which are tents in a camp nearby. Joshua, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the bus that people were traveling in.
Just like you mentioned, Amy, this, as you can see, is a transit site. And as the term refers basically to a temporary facility where UNHCR is accommodating people who are just fleeing war in that very moment, and is preparing them to be moved to a place where they have a more permanent place to live and to restart their lives. And this is where we kit them with the things they need on emergency, like blankets, mats, solar lamps, some cutlery, and some food. And in this instance, we're obviously adapting the content we're filming as we go along. And it was at this point where we decided to develop some form of a series of illustrating essential items that people forced to flee usually need. And we came up with a creative way of kind of giving a voice and a perspective, a point of view to some of these products. And in this case, it was the bus. We were just trying to imagine from the point of view of the bus, how can we express the importance of this facility that helps to move people who are in desperate need of safety from one location to another, and to show the people whose lives are being saved. In this case, mostly women and children, the elderly, from one position to another. And so we developed one pilot piece around the bus, and we took the point of view of the bus itself to kind of illustrate the crucial work that it does. You can play the piece, Amy.
Oh, there's a picture of you. I was supposed to go to that one on the bus that we're talking about here. Yeah, so this is the video that we created about the bus.
The passengers I carry come from Sudan. Each person forced to flee their home. An old man gently holds my broken armrest, quietly thinking about the life he's left behind. A young woman holds a baby daughter, worried and exhausted. Two elderly sisters chat to each other on their difficult journey. They only have each other now. 3 children sit with their mother, their eyes scanning the road outside. This is the biggest adventure they'll ever take. I carefully carry my passengers to their new homes and leave them in a safe place. Your support keeps me running, so tomorrow I can bring more people to safety.
As I mentioned earlier, the people that we're working with in Maban, some of them are newly arrived, just like you saw people who've arrived from Sudan in recent days and months. But then we're also working with with refugees who've been in Maban for a very long time. People like Awad, who you see here in this picture. Now, Awad arrived in Maban over 10 years ago, and people like Awad need a different type of support. They're trying to build a life, build a livelihood for their families, and their efforts are often disrupted by the flooding that happens in South Sudan. Yeah, so Joshua, you made a video about Awad as well.
This video was a special one for us because it helped us capture what the people in Maban as a camp experience year after year. Awad is a good example of the people who are doing so much with very little. He's a very hardworking farmer, and through UNHCR and the government of South Sudan, he's been allocated a piece of land on which he farms sesame seeds. And alongside that, he also has a bit of livestock at home. And all of these help him basically supplement his food for him and his family and the income he makes. But all of this is usually threatened year after year by oncoming floods. Because his plot of land and where he lives is smack in the middle of this massive plain, which is usually covered and swept underwater year after year. But this is exactly what Alex and our colleagues in this particular area are trying to prevent by working so hard to build more and more kilometers of a dike around this community in order to protect them through the donations and funds we receive from you. So please look at Awad's story so you can get a feeling of what it means to be a farmer facing floods in this region.
وانا بساعدك شويه قلبك بيكون شنو مرتاح شويه والله حاجات ده وانا ما بخليه يقوم كويس لكن انت بتشتغل بكون مرتاح السيل في سيل 2019 شال الوطا ده كله، شال السمسم ده كله، يا أول إيش كلم منه حبة. السيلة ده جانا في البيت أول، نحن قعدنا 5 يوم قاعدين في البيت. يلا لما جينا هنا لقينا الوطا ده كله ماشي مويه، سيلة بس، سيلة ليه هنا؟ ما سقنا هنا سيلة.
This is a country that has suffered from the conflict for a long time. So flooding comes in to add to the burden that the communities have always been exposed to. Experience has shown that over these years, the extent of flooding increases. Animals are washed away, road network is broken, medical facilities are also cut off from communities. Refugees and host community are chronically food insecure. We need to build the livelihoods of individuals. Maban has a very strong livelihood potential. The soils are fertile. We also need to build the subsurface water reservoirs, and this water can be used during the dry spell, so that farming is a continuous activity throughout the year. And in that way, we will be able to minimize hunger, we'll be able to reduce food insecurity in the host community and as well as the refugees.
نحب الزراعة. سمسم ده أحسن أبيض ده بيجيب قروش، لكن ده لأكل كويس. يلا أنا بكون باقي ناكله، باقي نودي السوق، باقي نخلي تراب. بنحب الزراعة. الزراعة ده ما كويس، الزراعة ده بعض مرات بيجيب كتير، بيلم كل الخسارات بتاعه بيجيبه. انت بتبيعه بقروش كويس، انت بتشتري حاجات، او انت اشتريت عربية، او انت اشتريت غنم بقر، ياو ده قاعدين نسوق.
As you can see, the work that Alex and the team are doing is really, really important for the farmers and the refugees that are living, and the host community that are living in Maban. The dikes really do protect the farmland as well as the homes from flooding, which allow them to grow crops all year round and not just feed their families, but make an income as well, which goes a long way. So the next place that we went to is a place called Bentu. Let me just play this for you. Sorry. So Bentu was one of the most extraordinary places that I think I've ever been to. When you fly into Bentu, all you can see for miles and miles and miles is flooded land. You can see here, like, there's just no end to the floods that you can see in these shots. Like, the wider and wider the lens goes, it's still just flood waters for as far as you can see. And all of this used to be forest and farmland, grazing land for cattle, and it's now what I referred to when I first saw it as a tree graveyard. And the communities have been squashed into smaller and smaller areas of land, living in camps, and there's really no end in sight in terms of that flood water receding. Tixa, I think one of the most challenging things in this situation is to capture those kind of images in one photograph. I think video is a bit more forgiving in that sense, but yeah, could you talk us through a little bit about how you captured the images from Bentu?
Yeah, thank you, Amy. I'm not exaggerating if I say Bentu is a way, way different from the flooding stories I covered in my journalism experience, because you can barely find a dry land to report from. It's like as far as the horizon, all you can see is the water. That used to be a grazing land and houses and a field that was filled with activities. All you can see is now water, which is sad. And so in the couple of days I spent in Bentu, I didn't report. I only didn't report the stories. I lived and experienced the life of the people, because I was like walking in the waters, and it was challenging photographing and witnessing what's happening in Bentu. So, and the other challenging was like the only route to access the markets or health facilities or schools is to only walk through the floods. The roads were broken, so the challenge is more tough on, as you can see on the picture. It's more challenging on women, the children, like accessing schools, health facilities, and yeah. So I was just living and experiencing the life of the people in Bentu. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, that's the perfect way, I think, to describe it. We did have to live that experience in Bentu. Joshua, I don't know if you have any reflections on your experience in Bentu.
Like Tixa said, it's difficult to describe Bentu without sounding hyperbolic with your language. It is really something you have to experience yourself. Even the aerial shots we have couldn't capture it sufficiently. What you're looking at is B-roll of our staff basically having to navigate the one road from the basically from the camp out into the communities to deliver assistance. And they do this on a daily basis. During the rainy season, these roads are so unpredictable that if they make it out of camp, you don't know if you're going to make it back. And if you make it to the site, you might camp overnight. These are our colleagues, James and Kayer. James is our driver, and Kayer is one of our field colleagues. And this is the one road that serves all humanitarian organizations in this area, providing assistance to the region. But the road is like this every rainy season.
Yeah, and we had to know, well, when we arrived, we quickly realized, I think, that all of our plans might not actually happen, because we had all these big plans to meet lots of different people in different places. But day one, this is filmed on day one, and we actually got stuck and had to turn around and go back. And that happened a couple of times on the trip. And so we decided, well, we might as well film this, because this in itself is quite extraordinary to see our staff having to deal with these conditions every day. And I couldn't drive a car quite like James. It was quite impressive to see him navigating this clay mud day in, day out, and actually most of the time successfully getting us where we needed to go. So that was quite an experience.
I think what made it a little bit humorous is the fact that it's just navigating Bentu itself is an extreme sport in itself. Not regular day driving can get you through these environments. Like the car was moving halfway, 50% of the trip was done sideways. Like the car had to drift sideways through the mud for hours and hours and hours for us to get through. And it requires a considerable level of skill to be able to navigate this. But it's fantastic to know that our field colleagues have done this for years. It's what they do. They know how to get it done. And in the spirit of UNHCR, they basically have to stay through these seasons, and they stay and they continue to deliver protection for the communities that need it.
And once we finally did get to meet people that we're supporting, we met these incredible women first who used to have very comfortable lives in this area. This where you see the water now and you see them in these boats, you see that actually this used to be the land that their cattle grazed on, and they had farmland, they had farms, they had homes, kids went to school, they used to be very comfortable, they told us. And then the floodwaters started coming, and ever since then they've really had to deal with a lot of challenges, and they really struggle to feed their families and earn an income, which is really quite sad to hear. But they're really quite resilient and doing everything they can to make sure that they still are feeding their children and trying to make an income. They collect the roots of water lilies, and they also collect firewood from the dead trees, and they sell it locally or use it themselves. And they used to wade out into the water for hours, they told us. But then UNHCR provided canoes for the community to kind of help them be able to navigate the waters more safely. We have this beautiful video that Joshua shot in Bentu about these women, so we'll let them tell their story.
Nungaran chiếc báo quyền chiếc và nương cái chiếc mà bé bà đào gạt cái dòng mình quý rồi như ngay nè cái chắc là có bé quê được đọc bằng cái nông lia mà đi mà bắt thal cái đial ra mà bự cái lia mà nung qua nó mẹ vô rồi dòng bé quạt quên nè bé nuôi bé lia đây giờ thế da rubin na rani ane ne jindi bene re ro baran na ya ne re ro be ru ke liu eli yiran wara na na ba yo ne wer me na ke liu ru ndi di go na na te chieng na ke liu de la de dor mo na ya cho ma ga de na la de na tan ni ma mi na ne da ne ke nyan ne ben ka ko chi na ko tin ka to kwa na tin nghe với nhớ về điều có còn đi ăn có vui thế nào có chứ còn đùa ăn con đi giáo rồi nó đầy phi nè thế là còn mấy giờ còn về còn nó mà nâng cái mẹ giờ nó bảo cô này chứ mình cô là làm bên lên của con lá đằng giá là lại xa rồi nè chứ mấy giờ bên lòi đó bây giờ bây nhiêu bây giờ tông nè thôi bây nhiêu có qua với nhiêu bên lụt bên đuôi này thôi cái nó kề liều anh này có lời có còn mà nó biết thua đi thua anh đây thua cái gì có con này đây qua còn đi à liền năng liều ngủ qua thôi bên đây cái dư đây nhỏ dư nữa cái cha đây người nó đưa cái gì đi chơi luôn rồi cái thằng mới chịu thì nó mới cái nhỏ bố nhập phi ra phải nhỉ riêng thì nó mới cái bố nhập phi thì nhủ có đó phải nhỉ arun ta đâu thì arun thì lo cái mà giỏi cô mấy áo queer mấy berar yera wala bị bete mấy cái này có bùa ra cái đó cái rei phi nè majala fe beda ne la ti opi wi mene ni do tin da jala mata fa den te mede ne katin dia lan thara fi ne che kanen kon wa kwer wa ga to kwetong alor wa ga to kwen kai ba no ti la ram nyo jal fe ni fa nya kwal ka ne ya kel kel mai ke na no amatot mai ya kun te ke dia de der kun ko wa ko wa o chok chang dun ma yi yer ma yu ko ya long ko we o chok ba o mo ya kwan te ya nang ka ri ni ko ngan mai ka nang ko bu ye ke ra man dun ya de u long ko mo de we na na ku ke an te fa ni me ya ka nang ka ri ba ra mi chi chu yer mo ruet ka na ra ma tel cho ka ra ma tel wang ba ko mo sin ba ko da ba mo ka thong ka ba mo ka kai chan go ba ko na lim no ko ni na ni ka na joy
But as you can see, it's a really beautiful story about the women that we met. They were the first women that we met in Bentu after we managed to arrive in a location after all the driving through mud. And then we also spent another afternoon in the camp where the women live who have the canoes, and we met women who received small business grants from UNHCR. And this is one of those women, and she was very inspiring. She decided to open up a bakery, and she was really excited to tell us about how she had never dreamed of having this opportunity in her life to open her own business, and how she had then taken it upon herself to employ several other women in the community, which was a really nice kind of thing to see, because not only is she able to earn an income, feed her family, but also she's able to give that opportunity to other women that she lives alongside.
Can I add something just to what you said,
Of
Amy?
course.
It's the one key thing I feel like is essential to underscore at this stage is that with very little assistance, these communities, these groups of women whose stories you're seeing are able to they're able to convert something very little support into something very large that benefits not just them and their families, but entire communities, many other families. Like it just spirals and goes a very long way. And it's because they did have this business acumen, these abilities, these skills. These are things they had before. They were all taken away by unfortunate extreme weather events. And now, when we come back in as UNHCR, in partnership with all of you who are watching and our donors, we're able to give them another, opportunity to restart, to rebuild their communities, and to basically have a decent shot at life again. And you can see with the big smiles on their faces and the kind of spirit they carry with them. There's an opportunity here to continue supporting them and to give them the opportunity to rebuild and continue with their lives. Sorry, just wanted to add that real quick, Amy.
Oh, yeah, that's really important. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, I think all of these kind of people that we met really depend on the support from UNHCR to restart their lives, and I think that it's important to mention that all of that is made possible by UNHCR's donors who are watching today. There we go. We'll play this very short but fun video that we made at the bakery. Joshua particularly got very involved in the bread making process and had cameras going in and out of the ovens, which you'll see. Yeah. we had a lot of fun working with the bakers that afternoon.
Amy, if you'll allow me, let me just turn the tables a little bit here, because what you've just streamed is our junction into Bor, which is a camp about 4 hours from Juba, and it is a special place, I believe, to you, because I remember when we arrived at this camp, it happened to be the very same camp you'd visited just about over a decade ago. And I remember you recounting and reflecting on how you felt when we arrived at this camp and what you were seeing. Do you mind taking us a little bit through what was going on through your mind as we drove into this particular site?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as you say, I visited this camp when it first opened over 10 years ago, and I actually didn't when I learned we would be visiting Bor, I didn't imagine that this camp would still exist, because it was meant to originally be just a temporary site for people who were fleeing the civil war. But unfortunately, when we arrived, Idi, the program manager in Bor, told us, yeah, no, the camp is still there, and people that fled there 10 years ago are still living in that camp. You can see in this footage that Marwan, our driver in Bor, and Koma here, our protection colleague, I was talking to them a lot about their experience in the camp, because they, like myself, were there when it first opened, but unlike myself, they actually were still working in the camp 10 years later. And it was really quite heartbreaking to see the situation that people are now living in the camp, with the flooding that's increased year on year. There's stagnant water in the camp. Their tents are, not in a great condition. And unfortunately, due to a lack of funding, there's, each year there's less and less that's being done in the camp. But UNHCR and our partners are still there, still working on the ground. Comma is there every day, working with people. And we're also working with another UN agency and the local authorities to try and resettle people to safer areas where they can actually live their lives a bit more with a lot more dignity. And our team there have managed to resettle several hundred people, but there's still a lot of people that need resettling, and that's what they're really working hard on to get done at the moment. But yeah, it was very, very difficult to see this situation, and I think it's probably safe to say that all of us really struggled with the day that we spent, or the couple of days that we spent visiting this camp. You can see us here. As Tixa said earlier, we really had to live the experience in all of these places with the floodwaters. There's really no getting away with it, and it poured with rain all day, and we were walking around in the stagnant water as well. But luckily for us, we were able to wear some rubber boots. And this is us interviewing our colleague Idi, who manages the program in Bor. And Tixa, I don't know if you want to say a few words about the pictures that you took that day in Bor.
Yeah, let me say something on this. So the situation in Bor is like, as you can see from the picture, as soon as you step out of the shelters, all you can see the stagnant water that's been there for quite some time. And from what I noticed from the people, like just a small droplets of water can put a shock on their face, because it's a sign of like another flood. And another worrying situation is that this is just the beginning of the rainy season and flooding. And if it rains and the camp is surrounded by the water, so if there's another flooding, it's they'll just be shackled in the camps, because they can't walk out, and then get a basic necessity for survival. So any droplet of the water is like a shock for them, and it's worrisome for the people living in the camps.
Yeah, so this is Naya Gwen, who we met and spent some time with. And yeah, like as you say, this is the very beginning of the flooding season, and it's already like almost knee deep, the flood waters in the camps. It just gets worse and worse and worse as the season goes on. And this is Naya Gwen with her children. I found it so shocking to see this is their home and this is where they live, and you can see that the floor is just wet mud. Like it's just, horrendous conditions for anyone to have to live in. Yeah, it was really quite shocking for us to work in on this day.
Yeah, Amy, if I can add something here. So the picture you saw earlier, if you can just scroll back. So this is spotted their bedroom, their kitchen, their living room, and this is all they got for like 7, which is it's worrying, yes.
Yeah, this is where they sleep. They don't have any beds. This is where they cook. Like you say, this is their entire home. So yeah, it's really, really horrific conditions that people are facing, and the floodwaters are just, getting worse and worse.
Thanks for highlighting that, Tixa, because technically speaking, as cameraman, to capture these images, like Tixa mentioned earlier, you basically have to put yourself in the very same circumstances these families are in for years. And so at this point, we had our cameras rained on for hours. We were all soaked. And at some point, it just becomes difficult to continue filming because it's heartbreaking, the images you're capturing and the testimonies you're hearing. And so at some point, we even decided to just put our cameras down. And we decided to try and even turn the cameras around to ourselves and basically just reflect on what our surrounding was like, to try and best describe the circumstances this community are living in, which I guess leads us to our next piece. There's many like these ones, but we'll play one for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm in a camp in Bor in South Sudan, and like many other camps, it is flooded. The only humanitarian actors in this particular camp are UNHCR. All the shelters around me are already at the water level, and the water is green because it's been stagnant for so long, and therefore what you're looking at is water that's contaminated and is causing a lot of diseases to the people who live here. It's really, really heartbreaking to see. Without your support, these people will have no chance of survival, and this is due to an extreme lack of funding. So we need your support, and we need your support today.
And just down the road from that camp, we also spent several days with another community who've been forced to flee because of flooding and lost their land and their homes, and were living actually on a dike. So they were living in this like long line along the dike, and this is Guy, who you can see in a photo here, in one of Tix's photos. This community had turned to fishing, which so many people we met were doing, and taught themselves how to fish.
If I may jump in, Guy was interesting to kind of spend some time with, a couple of days with, as he represents just the young energy of this community because many young men like him can only be fishermen. That's all they can do to supplement their diet, to make an income, and to provide for their families. And just his sheer energy, vibrance, and charisma was just captivating to see because he had to basically adapt to a different way of life from what he used to do before he was displaced by floods. And I can't imagine doing that myself. Like just overnight, having changed my career from a cameraman to something else, let alone fishing, and learn it from scratch and do it properly to make an income. This was just impressive to see. It was a fun time to film this one as well because we had to basically get on these boats that were rocking back and forth with all of our probably about 6 cameras. I know I had about 4 on me, a GoPro, a 360, an FX6, and my phone on a gimbal. I know Amy had one camera on a gimbal, and I think Tixa had 2 cameras with a telephoto lens and another lens on this other one. And just halfway into filming the story, Guy reminded us that actually there are crocodiles in this water. And from that point onwards, it wasn't an easy shoot any longer, but it was nice to see Guy and his fellow friends and neighbors just reeling in these nets of fish on these canoes, and this was a fantastic and positive note to be ending with. If any of you have any interesting reflections from that week.
Yeah, I was terrified that we were going to go into the water because the boats were rocking around so much. I was not looking forward to being eaten by a crocodile, that's for sure. But yeah, this was a really nice way to end the trip. I think Tixa, you kind of summed it up earlier when we were chatting about this live. Just talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so for this community, it really takes a small thing to put a smile on their faces. Like just a single canoe donation can change their life, to just provide their families, feed themselves, and then add income to their daily life. So just a small donation can divert things for them.
Yeah, so we were really lucky actually to see Idi and his colleagues, his team, bringing some canoes, I think 6 canoes to the community and some fishing nets, which, as you say, Tixa, really make a huge difference to the community because it gives them the ability to catch more fish and earn an income. And they actually dry the fish and then they sell it. It gets actually, I was quite surprised to know that the fish actually, a lot of it gets sold, gets picked up and transported all the way to DRC, which is really interesting. Obviously, after they've kept back enough for their own use, their own consumption, the rest of it gets dried and sold. So yeah, there's so many fish. It's the River Nile, so there's a lot of fish. They just need the tools to be able to catch them. And it was really nice to be able to see, UNHCR delivering those canoes to them. And we have this video that we'll end with about Guy.
When I came here, I had no canoe. So I was just, going with anyone that is willing. It wasn't easy because I never knew how to, how to go fishing, but I found it easy later on. This place wasn't covered by water all along, but as flood increased, as you see, this water has remained. All those houses, people used to be there, they live, a lot of people, but in fact they were displaced by floods. Actually, they are worried. They are told that flood is coming and they're worried of it because they're tired of floods. We don't want much water, flooding, we're tired of it. So if it floods here, I can't live here. What you do, you dream about it. What you do always, you dream about it. Because you put your mind in it. So I have to wake up every night in the morning to go and try whether the dream will come true. You know, fishing is the only activity done here. Other young people, most of them they are fishermen. And they are lacking a lot of things. Majority of them, they don't have canoes. So I may help them, give them the same. To go and try, but majority of them, they don't have. Don't give someone fish every day, but give them a net. They will try. Like this canoe and the net is here. Someone can live.
So I think Guy tells the story really nicely of how much of a difference the canoes make and the fishing nets make to the lives of the community that he lives in, for him and his brother and all of the people that have been that he lives with that have been forced from their homes. And this was the last picture we took on our trip, actually, of the three of us with the Guy and the fishermen that that very carefully took us in their boats, and they asked for a picture with us, which we thought was really nice, and so we'll share that with you today. It was a really, really nice end to the trip that, you know, obviously had a lot of ups and downs in terms of difficulties and challenges in filming, but also, you know, seeing some very difficult things and then seeing you know, a lot of hope and positivity when it comes to the, you know, the work that UNHCR is doing and how that's really supporting people and helping people to thrive in extremely difficult conditions. If you have the YouTube app on your phone, then you can scan this QR code that you can see on the screen now, and you'll be able to go to a 360 video and join Guy and the fishermen on the River Nile fishing. So we created this and we thought it was a nice way to feel as if you're with Guy on the river, and this is shot on one of those many cameras that Joshua mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I think this is a cool perspective to just be on the boats and feel like, you know, we got the pleasure of feeling. And if you're on the app, you can pan your phone around a little bit to just, you know, feel like you're inside the boat. I thought that was a cool perspective to be able to have. And I think, Amy, just as we're coming to the end of our session here, I think if you can allow me just to throw in one of my reflections over the whole experience, it's just that when standing behind the camera, trying to do your best to in the clearest way capture what you are seeing and feeling, and the people and the stories you are experiencing, and the families that are allowing us in and sharing with us in a very vulnerable fashion what they have lived through. We tried our best, and what the thing that stuck with me is that the people we spent time with are kind of pressed in between extreme weather, conflict, and circumstances that are really not of their own making. And at the point at which we meet them, they're doing their very best to just survive and get by. And what UNHCR and our donors have been able to do is to provide them with that little support to just get them to their next step. And from these pictures, I hope you are able to see how much a very tiny boost can go a long way in providing them a lifeline. I think that's what will stick with me the most. And as we are doing this call right now, we obviously, the floods have begun in South Sudan. And so the people whose stories you've heard and the faces you've seen, these are people who are probably in the middle of yet another rainy season, probably displaced by floods again or trapped in somewhere and desperately needing your assistance. And so I think the timing of this conversation is quite sharp. It's a key conversation to be having at this point. And I think these are the thoughts that stick with me as we chat about this.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think that's an important reflection. And yeah, it's I think no matter how many of these trips you go on, the people that you meet and spend time with, you do sort of, you always remember them, and you really want to do the best by them in terms of telling their stories. And I know that it's, we put these stories together in the best way that we can to convey the situation on the ground and tell the story of what's happening in South Sudan, somewhere that's so far away that a lot of us, if we didn't go there ourselves, it's hard to imagine the kind of challenges that people are facing. Like I say, before we went to Bentu, I couldn't imagine. People had told me about the floodwaters, but it's really hard to actually imagine what it's really, really like to see that extensive flooding. So that will always stick with me, I think, and thinking about people that are living in that. As we went there and spent time there, and then we left, and people are still living that life, still living in those conditions, including our staff, who really honestly are, in my mind, extremely heroic in the fact that they're choosing to live in that situation and working day in, day out to help people. So I just think that's quite amazing to see. But thank you so much to everybody who's joined us today. It's been a real pleasure to share these stories with you. And if you would like to donate to UNHCR and the work that's happening on the ground in South Sudan and in other places, supporting people like the people that we've introduced you to today, like Naya Gwen and Naya Kuth, and supporting the work that our colleagues like Alex are doing on the ground. There's a donate link in the comments that you can click on. But thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and allowing us to share our experience and stories with you. It's a real privilege for us to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.